Hudson County View, live and uncut. I'm your host, the local hellraiser, the guy who smokes on the bike like Smoking Joe Frazier, John Arhitis. And of course, we're going to talk the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. And we're going to talk, of course, a lot about what happened on Election Day 2021. So, in short, as many of you have read on Twitter and if you read on our site, that it's Mayor Fulop's third term, officially elected. It will be sworn in probably January 1st, maybe the 2nd, but we'll get that date for you as soon as possible. But won by about a 2-1 margin. The first mayor to do so since Frank Hague, of course, a notorious Democratic Party boss from about a century ago. And we'll talk about the council. Right now, it looks like it's 6-2 with Ward C going to a runoff, so obviously that's worth mentioning as well. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Mile Square City. Obviously, Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala was elected. He was unopposed, but his council slate also pulled off a clean sweep, so we'll talk about those implications for 2022 and beyond. And also a quick congratulations to Kearney Mayor Al Santos and Guttenberg Mayor Wayne Zitt. They ran unopposed, so they, of course, won another 4-year term apiece. So there's that. We're also going to talk about what happened in Wards E and F in Jersey City with Councilman James Solomon and upstart challenger Frank Gilmore really having strong performances. So obviously that's worth noting. We're going to talk about some statewide numbers, how Governor Phil Murphy appears to have eked out a really close win over Republican nominee Jack Ciattarelli. And of course, I'm going to do some of this with our guest today, who is Hector Oseguera of the Progressive Democrats of Hudson County. All that, maybe a little more, right after we get back from a word from our sponsors.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John Arhitis, and as I just mentioned today, I'm joined with Hector Oseguera of the Progressive Democrats of Hudson County. Hector, nice to see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me, John. Always a pleasure to join you on this very prestigious show.
Thank you, much appreciated. So, look, first let's just talk about Mayor Fulop. Like I said, and as you're well aware, he won his third term on Tuesday. Not terribly close, but a lot of people are taking note that Louis Spears did a lot better than Bill Massacutis. So what's your read on that?
Yeah, my read is that you have to take a look at the performance of Democrats locally, municipality-wise, statewide, and nationwide. And one of the lessons that we're learning is that younger Black and brown voters need a reason to turn out. And if you give them a reason to, they will turn out, and they're capable of delivering victories in certain elections. Obviously, Mayor Fulop did win, but you see the margins for the opposing side growing and growing, while the vote total for what you might call the establishment dwindling year after year after year.
All right, so with that, do you think there's any possibility these two rematch somewhere down the line, perhaps in 25?
I think there's always a lot of speculation that goes into what the next election is going to bring. I wouldn't, claim to have psychic powers or to be able to see what happens in 25. And what I would like to say is that I think whatever people expect is not going to shape up the way that they think it will. So is Louis Spears going to remain around and become a political force or remain a political force in Jersey City? I expect he will, and I expect that every single person who ran as an independent candidate is going to stay around in some way, shape, or form to continue this. You remember when I ran for Congress, I told you this was just the beginning of something. We're seeing that blossom into a lot of different independent candidacies. Obviously in Jersey City, we had some tremendous victories. And so this just portends what is coming, but it would be remiss to speculate as to what the 2025 election will bring.
Sure. So with that, you probably saw I spoke to Mayor Fulop and I asked him about 2025. Well, he didn't outright rule it out. He basically said my game and my eye is on Jersey City right now, as you would expect him to. So I guess you would probably feel that it's a little early to get on the 2025 gubernatorial train, right?
Yeah, I think so. A month is a lifetime in politics. A year is many lifetimes in politics. 4 years from now, it would just be too difficult for somebody to say at this point, right? A year ago, even a week ago, people thought that Governor Murphy was going to run away with this. Clearly, things didn't pan out that way. And so while I understand that people are always going to, try to read the tea leaves and see what's going to come, I don't think that will bear much fruit. I think it's better for people to focus on the here and now, as the progressives are trying to do, focus on what people are worried about day in and day out. And I think that's what will ultimately bear fruit. And that's where you will see people either be successful or unsuccessful in this world.
All right, so let's break down the 9 seats a little. So talking at large, at whole, not the result that you were hoping for. Team Fulop swept pretty comfortably, right?
Yeah.
7-person race. They won the 3 seats. Amy DeGees, Joyce Waterman, and Danny Rivera. What's your take on this? What do you think this means?
Right, when you're running citywide, it's obviously going to be tied very closely to the top of the ticket. And so I think the reflection between Mayor Fulop and Louis Spears was obviously going to be reflected to some extent at the at-large seats as well. So obviously not very surprising. I obviously weighed in on that race in my own way, not thinking that you're going to push it in one direction or the other, but you want people to know where you stand on these issues, right? I would not be so arrogant as to say that I could tell a voter in Jersey City how they're going to vote. All I can say is I'm giving you my perspective, and you could take this however you want to take it. But obviously, when you're running citywide, the top of the ticket is going to be reflected in other citywide races, and I think that the at-larges were going to follow the mayor most closely.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the ward races. A, Denise Ridley won pretty comfortably. Yep. B, we saw a hell of a fight out of Joel Brooks.
Absolutely, came very close.
And he hasn't conceded yet, but more than likely that's probably not going to change, right?
But it's very close, right? And I think that does speak to something because Team Fulop spent a lot of time in Ward B. They brought out some heavy hitters in Ward B, and they spent a lot of resources in B. So they did fight it out, and we came very, very close. Again, I think that is a signal of the trends that we're seeing with certain voters dwindling and another voter base being ascendant.
On that point, in Ward C, we obviously have the runoff, and you couldn't have 2 more different candidates, right? You got
Absolutely.
challenger Kevin Bigg and incumbent Rich Baggiano. How do you see this panning out?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be definitely that fight that you had nationally between a conservative Democrat and a more forward-thinking progressive Democrat. And I think that this is going to be an opportunity for those two views to put themselves before the voters and to say, which one of these visions speaks more to your lived experience? Which one of these do you think makes more sense for what's going on? Do you think having SWAT teams on every corner block is going to keep our city safe? Are you worried about mass transit? Are you worried about infrastructure? And I think that this will be a very close race to watch, and I think that it's going to be very important. I certainly support Kevin Bing and hope that he will be successful in the runoff.
Thanks, Hector. Perfect time to just take a quick break. We're just going to hear another word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. John R. Highness, and I'm still here with Progressive Democrats of Hudson County member Hector Oseguera. So We're just finishing up talking about those Jersey City ward races. So in D, I think that was about a 19-point spread. So Danielle Freer, definitely a strong showing from a first-time candidate. Not a nail-biter, but exceeded expectations, I think, for most people. Your read on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she did tremendously, right? I don't think you can undercut, just because it's not a victory. And I understand that we're in a position where, because of the way that the politics are structured here, obviously an incumbent with the support of the mayor is going to be favored. But if you look at the results, 37%, that's nothing to scoff at in any election. With a little bit more resources, a little bit more elbow grease, that could have easily been a victory, I think. So, yeah, it was not a victory this time around. I think that Danielle, again, is a seed that was planted in the Heights that will eventually blossom into something that absolutely can challenge any either mayoral or whatever establishment might come seeking power there.
All right, very good. And I'm sure you were pretty excited with the results in E. I mean, Councilman Solomon, as I said, really hit it out of the park. I mean, I think much higher victory tally than anyone could have predicted. So anything further to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, E and F, I think, are the ones to really watch and the ones that make my case the most, right? James Solomon and Frank Gilmore had to bear the full brunt of the mayor's machine, constant attacks, constant unfair hits on them. A suspicious mail piece against Frank Gilmore. Nobody is unsure where that came from. And yet, not only did they win, it was a tremendous margin. In F specifically, you had a three-way race, which makes it much more difficult to come away with the 50%, which he did hit. So you see that in places where people really are concerned about where the city is going and where we're going as a state, as a nation generally, there's a group that is younger that maybe just doesn't like the way that politics as usual are done. They don't have to be young. They don't have to be of any race or gender. They're just people who are sick of politics as usual. That group of voters is growing every single election. Whereas your run-of-the-mill vote down column A every single election, those voters are dwindling election after election after election, which, I think we've seen with the ACDO's performance in the last few elections. Being in New Jersey, we have an election every single year, so you have a lot of data to judge by. Their voters are abandoning them, and our voters are coming into, their own.
So talking about that, let's talk briefly about Governor Murphy and that election.
Right.
A lot of people, as you said at the top of the program, or earlier in the program, a lot of people thought we're calling this 9:30, 10 p.m. on Tuesday. Not even close, right? It looks like he'll win by something like 3 to 5 points. I think 5 might be a tad optimistic, but whatever. The point is it's going to be real close. The polls got it wrong, and it looks like the majority of Democratic machines across the state just did get the vote out. So what's your read?
Yeah, they collapsed, right? The machines are collapsing, and it's sort of trailing off from that. People are sick of politics as usual. Everybody thought that Governor Murphy was going to run away with it, and Terry McAuliffe in Virginia was the favorite. I think that people really should look at those two races side by side. Who did Governor Murphy appeal to that Terry McAuliffe did not? Governor Murphy ran on progressive policies, for licenses for undocumented people, millionaires tax, campaigned with Bernie Sanders. Terry McAuliffe ran as a more conservative Democrat. That conservative Democrat is not voting Democratic anymore. And those younger progressives, if you give them something to vote for, will turn out for you. And as we just saw nationwide, can be the deciding force in an election. So I think that the message for Democrats statewide is you can't rely on these machines anymore. People are getting hip to the game and they're sick of it. They don't like it. We saw that locally in wards E and F. We saw that statewide here with Governor Murphy's race, and we saw that nationwide when you compare it to the result in Virginia. So I think that's the lesson that we need to take away from the elections.
Gotcha. So let's briefly talk about the Mile Square City. Mayor Bala, of course, unopposed, so he won easily. But his ticket sweep, again, without a whole heck of a lot of stress there. So what's your read on that, and what do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, like I said, I think that the top of the ticket really sets a tone for the election when you have somebody running unopposed. Not only are they obviously going to win, but the other candidates that run aligned to that individual are going to run away with it. You saw that at the at-large races in Hoboken. So it's a very important municipality, certainly holds a lot of power in Hudson County, but I don't think that there's too much to learn because the mayor couldn't really find an opponent. There's maybe a lesson to be taken there that maybe people are satisfied with Mayor Bala's leadership, but at the end of the day, the fact that he didn't have an opponent is going to set the tone and ultimately means that because you don't have somebody to contrast it with, there's not too much that you can read from the ultimate results.
Okay, so he's a rumored eventual, perhaps heir apparent, or maybe just challenger in the 8th Congressional District, which you know well. So what do you think about that, and what do you think about the prospect of you perhaps being involved there next time around?
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting question. I think that, Mayor Bala, I think anybody in Hudson County is free to do what they want to do. I think that he would be a very strong candidate no matter what he wants to do. I think that no matter what, progressives won't sit it out. That's what I can tell you. Is it going to be me? Is it going to be somebody else? I can't read into the future, like I said before. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I can be sure that progressives will not sit it out. And, I think it should be a race run on the issues. Unfortunately, you get a lot of dirty politics going on, ugly mailers, ugly social media hits. If you can keep to the issues and the things that really matter to people, I think that Mayor Bala and anybody else would be a tremendous candidate, and they should throw their hat in the ring if they think that they would be the best candidate.
Hector, thanks so much for coming by. Much appreciated. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. We're not done yet. We're going to take another break.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in one of our many high-rise towers. With amenities such as the on-site Newport Path, light rail, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Kohl's, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams and Acme Supermarket are just outside your front door. A health and fitness center, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. Enjoy the New York skyline from our waterfront and various parks. Manhattan is just one pass stop away, or a quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Looking to visit? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. For more information, visit us at newportnj.com. Make lasting memories to cherish forever. It's incredible. It's you, Newport. Live like you want.
Panapinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintodevelopment.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Not everyone celebrates the birth of a baby. You have options. Don't panic. New Jersey has safe havens for unwanted infants. Leave the baby with staff at any hospital, ER, police or fire station, or rescue squad. Call the number on your screen for safe haven locations or go to www.njsafehaven.org. No shame, no blame, no names. Safe Haven.
Hudson County View live and uncut. John Arhitis. So let's just talk some quick election results about Board of Education races. So we saw that Together We Can slate pull off a sweep in Bayonne. That was the team that was endorsed by the Board of Education incumbents, particularly Maria Vallado, the board president, and also the vice president, Chris Munoz. So, nice work. Congrats to them. And the Jersey City Education Association, their Education Matters team, again, another strong showing, won in definitive fashion, at least 2-1 to the closest challenger who came in fourth. So, certainly that board is going to stay 7-2 for at least the upcoming year. Will be interesting to see who the new board president is, though, because we saw that Trustee Musa Ali did not seek re-election. So, with that in mind, let's just talk for a moment about something not election related. So we actually heard the day before the election, of course that was Monday, that Jersey City Superintendent of Schools Franklin Walker is going to be retiring in January. So he sent out an email blast on Friday, and that went to some school district officials, including at least a few of the trustees. And while no one wanted to give that up, people confirmed that this happened, and this is something that he's looking to do probably by the end of January, so probably the 30th or the 31st, though I didn't get an exact date on that. And we also heard from Mayor Fulop, who said with the superintendent announcing he will be retiring in early 2022, the stakes for this year's Board of Education election has dramatically increased, as whoever is elected will play a significant role in deciding the future of the district. So, certainly, I don't think that's something that a whole lot of people would argue with. And the JCEA with another sweep, looks like the teachers union will have a decent say in who the next superintendent is. Walker has had a really long career. I think you could call it a fruitful career at the district. I mean, 5 decades, 48 years to be exact. His first job at the district was in 1974 as a gym teacher. He graduated Ferris High School, and he was an interim superintendent briefly in 2011 and was again named interim superintendent on January 31st, 2019. And finally, he was appointed the full-time superintendent about 10 months after that, so at the beginning of 2020 there. So his formal retirement likely won't come till the end of January, like I just said, though it's probably won't be formally announced until after he meets with the board and other district officials. So, probably 2 to 3 week timeline, I would say conservatively, but if we get any update on that, obviously I'll let you know as soon as possible. So that's that as far as Superintendent Walker goes. We're going to talk just a little bit about Mayor Fulop and what may happen in 25 or not. As I just was speaking with Hector about, obviously we can't predict the future, we don't have a crystal ball, etc. But a lot of people already wondering what the mayor will do or could do in the next term. So I was able to speak to him on election night, and we talked about a potential gubernatorial run, we talked about the results. So why don't we play that, and we'll have one last break from our sponsor. Came in pretty strong, 2-1 victory. You would obviously would have liked to do over 70, but I mean, look, that's obviously pretty decisive. Tell me your thoughts.
I mean, I don't know if I'd like to do over 70. I'd like to do over 80 or 90, but the reality is that over 50 is great. And, you're in an environment today where there's an anti-incumbency sentiment everywhere in the country. And so just getting a 2-1 margin is a huge validation for the work we've been doing over the last 8 years. I'm just really thankful.
So the council race is kind of an interesting finish, right? I mean, you were saying looking at about a 6-3 at least to replicate what happened at 17. And, there's a loss at E, there's a loss at F. We're going to run off at C. And I guess you could argue that the B race won't be called formally until tomorrow. So what do you think about that?
I mean, the B race is, from my standpoint, I think we're pretty comfortable that we're going to win that one. A, B, C is going to run off. D, we won at large. Look, I think the result is very good. Better than it was 4 years ago, with the chance of it being 7-2. We're going to work hard for Rich, and the goal is to get him over the finish line, and we're starting tomorrow. So I was hoping to rest, but that's what we're going to do.
All right. So speaking of November 3rd, you've seen and you've heard the chatter that Steve Fulop for governor 2025 is highly likely. It started already. In earnest, of course, but it's making the way on Twitter and other social, and that's been whispered in back rooms, so on and so forth. So we don't even know who the governor's going to be at the end of today yet, but what's your thoughts on that right now?
Not a lot. We got a lot of work to do here, and so I would just say, look, we'll see where things go, but the priority is going to be Jersey City. I'm not going to take my eye on the ball here, and it ultimately is about doing the best job here, and we got some policy initiatives that I'm very excited about, and that's where we're going to go.
And finally, anything about today that surprised you at all?
I thought that the Ward E race would have been a little closer. James has been a good councilman, but I thought Jake ran a good campaign. But I got a good relationship with James and looking forward to working with him for another 4 years. I think Jermaine didn't get the credit that he deserved for a lot of the things that he pushed forward. But the people in Ward F spoke very loudly and clearly that they wanted to go in a different direction, and I'm going to try my best to build a bridge with Frank. And then finally, I think the most important thing for me is to figure out where to get Lewis and some of the other council candidates involved in a meaningful way in the administration. A lot of them had really great ideas and initiatives that we probably could overlap on and figure out ways to work together. So that's the priority.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John R. Highness. So let's, another election-related thing, but this isn't exactly municipality by municipality or vote by vote breakdown. There was a viral tweet that had people believing, and for good reason, a very respected national reporter who I think has done a fantastic job, has a great body of work, but misinterpretation, misunderstanding of some information on the Hudson County Clerk's website that led people to believe that some early voting ballots were double counted. So let's talk about that. So we heard from Hudson County Clerk E. Junior Maldonado, who said any information from third parties that have suggested or insinuate that the numbers have been counted twice or not counted at all is categorically false. Our office will continue to conduct itself with the highest level of integrity and transparency. We encourage everyone to continue following our election night reporting page until the results are made official. So, in case you missed it, NBC News and MSNBC national political correspondent Steve Kornacki, who's actually a New Jersey native and is really a whiz when it comes to the election numbers, speaking as a whole, but he tweeted that the early vote tallies were double counted in Hudson, which gave Chitterelli a slight lead after this was corrected, but about a half hour later he clarified that the county website reported all of its votes while also providing an early voting breakdown, which led to a misunderstanding. So his exact words on that, again in a tweet, the confusion seems to be that that the county reported all of its votes, including early, and also provided a separate early vote breakout. But it was not clear to media data providers that the numbers from the early breakout were included in the total votes. That's what was adjusted. So the long story short, Hudson County residents, voters, candidates alike, nothing to worry about. Everything was done by the book and nothing to be alarmed about in this particular situation here. And we're actually going to close just on something that actually isn't election related at all. But the Hudson County Vaccine Task Force kicked off their vaccination efforts for children 5 through 11 yesterday. Modest start, but they didn't really advertise it. They said they had 30 children get vaccinated yesterday. That's at the USS Juneau Center in Kearney. And, this is going to be there, of course, for the foreseeable future. We heard from Hudson County Executive Tom DeGees, who said, "We are thrilled to see so many parents already bringing their children to get their vaccine at the Hudson County Vaccine Distribution Center. As Hudson County families are transitioning back to in-person learning, and many parents are going back to work, approval of the Pfizer vaccine for kids will make a huge difference in our ability to continue to recover safely from the pandemic. We are fully prepared to hit the ground running and ensure that all kids ages 5 and over have access to these life-saving vaccines." So we know that this already has FDA approval, of course, just the Pfizer vaccine for children. And you might recall that back in September, we reported that Hudson County had the top teen vaccination rate in New Jersey that was 13 through 17 years old, something that was recognized by Governor Phil Murphy. And that's pretty much it for the vaccination rate. You could go on their website to look at when appointments are available. So we're going to call it a day. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.